I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote. Carol Lamos. Here. Lee Sharps. Here. Teja Singh Shivalingam.
Present.
Casey Barney.
Here.
Fran Newton here. Okay, we've shifted things just a little from the past, and that is that we're going to have public comments at the start of the meeting, and we're going to limit them to agenda items. And Charlie has put out a sign-up sheet so that we know who's going to talk and about what subject. So I'm just going to call you up in the order that you've signed in. First is Mardine Badger, who has something to say about the handbook.
You've got town clerk on the agenda.
Oh, yes.
I would.
You want to do that first? Okay.
Yes.
Patsy, then let you go first. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Shall I sit here and read?
Please do.
Okay. So this memo that I've written is in regards to the resurfaced discussion regarding the option of holding a special election to fill the District 9 vacancy created by the resignation of Jeff Shackett. I am writing this to clarify the contents of a letter to the editor, which appeared in the Laconia Daily Sun on April 26, written by Mary Gennaro. The town of Ashland belongs to two voting districts within the state, District 9 and District 17. After the resignation of Mr. Shackett, we, the residents of Ashland, still have two representatives in Concord. They are Mr. Hull of District 9 and Mr. Darrow of District 17. It is my personal feeling that we have two representatives is quite adequate. Also addressed in the letter was the estimated cost of a special election. Ms. Gennaro was correct in her statement that the state will pay for the ballots, but the statement that most of the workers are on the payroll is not correct. The only election worker on the payroll is the town clerk. Here are the estimated costs of a special election. Moderator, $150, ballot clerks, $348, supervisors of the checklist, $324. There is a possibility that we would have to have two elections, a primary and a general, which would double those costs. It is not all about the money, although unbudgeted costs do create issues. We and the other towns being served by Mr. Hull and Mr. Darrow have representation in Concord, and we should make sure that these two men know that we will call them if we need them. I hope that the Ashland Board of Selectmen will ratify the previous vote taken stating that they will feel a special election is not necessary. Patricia Tucker, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Patsy.
You're welcome.
Very nice.
Okay, now Mardine.
At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, there was a short discussion on a proposed document entitled Board of Selectmen Operational Guidelines and Handbook. A few board members expressed opposition to adopting the handbook. The handbook document was attached to tonight's meeting agenda that was posted on the website. So I took the opportunity to read through the document. And I noted that it's a combination of references to some of the RSAs which form the legal basis of the Select Board's responsibilities and authority, and operational or procedural elements. In fact, the document you are considering is already found in other towns in the same format with some local variations. The Select Board members sitting in front of me, those on past boards and those on future boards, all come from different backgrounds, have different levels of experience, and are used to different procedural rules. In order to operate efficiently and consistently, members of any board must operate from a common understanding of relevant laws and must have a common set of rules and vocabulary. For example, the Planning Board, of which I am a member, has adopted a 2 to 3 page rules of procedure. We have a longer handbook from the state which summarizes the legal land use issues, and we have a third book which is almost 2 inches thick that pulls all of the relevant land use laws out of the total state set of laws.
Right.
These documents are especially useful in orienting a new member to the responsibilities and procedures of the board. And these documents, plus additional available training and resources, assist the experienced members in steering through complex processes. Many public, private, commercial, and educational entities have handbooks, bylaws, and procedures which are approved or signed by their governing boards or their employees. The Select Board has a very complex task in governing the affairs of the town according to the laws of New Hampshire and presenting a professional face to the public. Many other New Hampshire towns recognize this, and their select boards have adopted bylaws or rules of procedure or operational guidelines or handbooks to provide themselves with the necessary framework. They might summarize key RSAs which select board members must be aware of, and they might address things like meeting times, who calls meetings, how it's done, setting agendas, or rules for maintaining order during meetings. In short, any such handbook assists the select board members in performing their duties. A handbook should not be labeled redundant and bureaucratic, but rather seen as a form of guidance and assistance.
Thank you, Mardine. Steve Darrow, Grafton, who has an introduction.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, welcome, Steve.
Well, I appreciate that. My name is Steve Darrow, and I am a state representative representing Grafton District 17, which includes Ashland, Bridgewater, Bristol, Alexandria, Grafton, and Enfield. And may I go on?
Please.
Go on, because I was really here to make a statement regarding Grafton District 9 and Mr. Shackett's resignation.
Yes, please, that's on the agenda.
And I know that the other towns have not decided to go ahead with the special election, and I know that the town of Ashland, the board, has discussed this in the past, and they're bringing it back up tonight. And I would just like to say that whatever decision that the board makes, I will totally support it. Should there be a special election, I know that we have many good candidates that would like the opportunity to run, and basically that's why I came. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. George Hacker from Peak Hill Road. Again, about this special election.
I've been a resident of Ashland for about 2 years now, and my past life sort of raises some concerns for me related to this vacancy issue. I lived in Washington, D.C. before moving here, and where, if you don't know, where I was disenfranchised for nearly 40 years and had no real representation. So I feel very strongly about this issue. And although I'm delighted to be educated by Patsy about the actual sort of dual representation or duplicative representation, I still don't think that 2/3 representation is sufficient to make up for my loss of representation for 35 years. It's one of the benefits that I really enjoy living in New Hampshire and in Ashland, to have real representation that I can vote for. So I want to just urge the Select Board to study this issue very carefully and to lean on the side of a Democratic election.
Okay, thank you. Joyce Weston, Loon Lake Road.
Hi, my name's Joyce Weston. I am not a resident of Ashland. I'm actually the chair of the Plymouth Area Democrats. I'm also a friend of Henry Ahern, who's the chair of the Pemmy Baker Republicans and the Pemmy Valley Republicans. And he and I have been talking over the weekend, and we are both in agreement that this is a bipartisan issue, has nothing to do with politics, but we feel from both sides of the issue that this is a very important election that you deserve to have full representation. And both groups, which represent Ashland in addition to other towns, are willing to help you. If it's a money issue, we will help you raise some money with a special event in order to cover the cost of this. Hopefully it would be just a single election and not a primary. I know on the Democrat side I can guarantee that, because I've actually talked to the woman who ran with our candidate in the last election. She has no interest in running again. Henry is a little bit less sure of that, but I think I think they would try very hard to make it just a single election and not have a primary. So I just want you to know we're working together. This is something where we may disagree on a lot of issues, but this is one place where we can really come together.
Thank you, Joyce. Mandy Gennaro from 6 Carl Way.
My name's Mary Catherine Gennaro. I'm called Mandy. And again, I thank you for considering this issue of a special election. I believe that this would benefit all members of our district. We don't have equitable representation. I believe it's something like 3,190 of us are not represented, even though we have the Flotarius and we have Mr. Hull. They are both from Grafton, which is somewhat far closer to Hanover than it is to this area. We are entitled to the 3rd representative. I do know that this will cost a little bit of money. As Joyce pointed out, there are people willing to investigate. I don't know what the legality is, donations, crowdfunding, et cetera, to try and help mitigate the cost. But I think this is really important. The last meeting it was mentioned that we were going to upgrade our website, which I personally find fairly easy to navigate, which is amazing because I'm not very technological. And we're willing to spend $2,300, so I don't think it's too much to ask to spend between $800 and $600, or $1,644, I think is what I saw on it. The other thing that I think is necessary to know is the town of Bristol has made a big deal about things. There's been something in the news about the town of Bristol not wanting a special election. And I don't know, you may be aware of it, but they are under investigation for voter fraud. And I do have here for you from the Salmon Press the article on it, and I also have a photocopy of the actual complaint from Mr. Sellers that talks about their voter fraud. So I'm not sure the town of Bristol is the town we want to really rely with on what the needs of our area are. But I have copies for everybody. And lastly, in our handbook, or your handbook, the partial list of selectmen's duties, page 3, actually page 4, you'll see it, number 45, request a special election to fill a representative seat. And so I would just be really grateful. I think this is, we do not have, I agree with Joyce, this is not a partisan issue. We need representation, and the more voices we have in Concord, the better we are up north here, and the more Ashland will be heard. And we have a lot of things coming up, and we need our voice heard, and we need 3 representatives.
Okay, thank you. Susan Way, did I pronounce it correctly? On River Street in Ashland?
Sure, pass them right along here.
Oh, yeah, right.
I guess I would just like to say that I second what the 2 speakers have been saying. I feel like I want full representation, not 2/3 representation. That just doesn't seem right to me. And since we don't really have anybody from this side of the district, I really think it's time to have another election. And you know, I don't see that $822 is all that much to spend for having a representative for this number of people that need one. So,
thank you, Susan. John McLean from Smith Hill Road wants to talk about the LRPC issue. John?
Actually, I didn't, that's not what I wanted. When I looked more closely, I wanted to talk about the Transportation Committee.
Oh, okay. Well, that is on the agenda, I believe. So if you have something to say, go right ahead. Do you want to come up here, John, so we can all see you? You don't?
I'm afraid I'm going to pass.
Okay, that's fine. So you don't want to say anything?
No.
Okay. Phil Preston from Lambert Road. We all know Phil, former selectman. Also likes to say something about the special election.
Which I hope you will decide to request a special election for District 9. I think that I'm just appalled at the absurd amount of money that this country has spent in the Middle East. And I think for the residents of District 9 to not be willing to pay for the cost of democracy is not a message we should be sending to anyone. But on July 4th, we're going to be setting off approximately $15,000 worth of fireworks. And I'm asking you, or I'm asking in general, what are we celebrating? Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. This gentleman just walked in. We had a sign-up sheet for public comments. Is there something that you'd like to say related to the agenda?
Sure.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Henry Ahern from Plymouth.
Okay.
Just barely in Plymouth.
Okay.
And I just would make a comment that I think that the towns do deserve representation. And we have from, it's not my district, but from the four towns that are involved should have representation. And it's not, I know it's some money, but it's not a lot of money.
Okay. Thank you, and welcome. There's somebody else that just walked in?
There was, I don't know if they want to speak.
I guess, did you have anything you wanted to say, sir? Would you please introduce yourself?
So I'm Bill Bolton, I'm from the town of Plymouth. I'm a selectman in Plymouth.
Okay.
And it's easy for me to say, but I think it's well worth the expenditure to have an election to fill the vacancy.
Okay.
It's kind of bad to be underrepresented.
Okay.
So.
All right.
So again, it's easy to say.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming and for your comments. Next item would be the approval of the minutes of April 17th. Are there any comments or corrections?
I had one.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Let's see, under the town website upgrade, I would appreciate if we had the cost, the amount that we voted on allocating for that or spending on that. I think it was, I believe it was $2,300.
Okay.
That seemed like that was an important piece of information.
Okay, can certainly add that.
Also, under public comments, where it says, discussion ensued amongst residents, the board, and the director of the DPW regarding Smith Hill and Thompson Street. And I would also add, and drainage on the Fucareel property. That was a major aspect of what we discussed as well.
All right.
And I have one last one.
Sure.
This is just
No.
Wait, backtrack.
Wait a minute.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm going back to old business.
Old business?
Yeah.
It wasn't under public comments? Old business?
Under public comments,
yeah,
the
the
first
last one
bullet.
I mentioned was under public comments, where it says Smith Hill and Thompson Street.
Okay.
I would like to add, we also discussed drainage on the Fucareel property.
Okay.
Did you say you have another one, Tasia? Something?
Yes, I
Okay.
have one more. And this is just, I don't know, perhaps it's a reading or writing preference. Under old business, under the site access agreement, I personally would prefer if it said Shivlingam, Lamos, and Sharps in favor, and Barney and Newton opposed. That seems consistent with the other votes that were recorded here.
Okay.
That were listed in favor and opposed.
Right.
And where is that?
The last sentence? Yeah, the last sentence. Under old business, under site access agreement.
And it says
Last sentence.
Shivlingam, Lamos, and Sharps for, and that he wants it in favor, and then
favor.
Barney and Newton opposed. Right?
Yes.
Okay, I have an additional comment under project list, the next to the last bullet where it says we're discussing solar energy. Chairman Newton will talk with the electric company. I never agreed to do that. We've had a conversation with the electric company, so there was no action item out of that. It was just something that's ongoing. Okay. Anything else?
So what do you want it to say, Frank?
What should it say?
Just say that we discussed solar energy.
Okay.
You know, we have had meetings on it, and there's really nothing to be done at that point except to keep it on the radar. Any other comments? In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, consent agenda. We have a manifest to sign. The general manifest is in the amount of $112,554. The payroll manifest is $12,691. The third item that's in here, we do an annual inspection of Buskey's, which is the only authorized junkyard in town. And so it's, in order to get their approval to continue this junkyard, we have to have an inspection. And the code enforcement officer has done this inspection, and it passed inspection. So we just need to sign off on that. Okay, department head stuff. Parks and Rec, Ann Barney, come talk to us.
Okay, so the first thing is summer camp.
What I would like to do is, right now, we have a 6-week summer camp. I tried to get in the budget to have it for 8 weeks, but it didn't pass, so I'm asking if I can do it for 7. It's gonna be more cost as far as paying for the counselors and stuff, but it's also gonna bring in more revenue.
And it's offset totally by revenue, as I understand it?
Yes, it definitely makes more than it, but right now in the budget isn't that extra money
Right.
for it.
So what is the extra money, Ann?
Well, there's only budgeted for 6 weeks.
I know.
So
So what is it roughly?
what's
for
the
ni-
difference?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, what I figured was it's gonna cost $1,500 for staff, $250 about for a bus trip, and $200 for the cost of a trip. So it's about $2,000. And then I did last year, if it's a resident, it's $125. If it's a non-resident, it's a little more, $130. And for 16 kids, it will take care of that. And last year's average was 19.7 a week.
Okay.
And I feel like if this will put us past Plymouth, Holderness, all those, giving us more week, I feel like we're gonna pick up more kids and have even more.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to, so I haven't received any information on this. Other departments work very hard to put forward information so that we can review it prior to meetings. On that basis, I'd like to motion that we table the agenda items relevant to Parks and Recreation until our next meeting and receive information from the director.
Well, while she's here, I would at very least like to hear what she has to say. We can discuss tabling the vote if you want, but I want to hear what else she has to say while she's here.
So for that, it will more than cover it. And as far as the money, I will make it work somehow in there. I'll figure it out to cover for that.
Okay.
I just want it okayed. We are having a sign up, so I'd rather not wait because I want to be able to tell parents, yes, we're going to have 7 weeks instead of 6. I also have to hire people, and I need them to know they're going to have to work 7 weeks and not 6. So I don't feel that waiting is going to be helpful to me at all.
What is your timeline, Ann, for getting signups?
We are having a sign up on the 17th of May. It's website, it's going on the website, it'll go, the school will do it, we always put it on PBS, hand out to schools, it goes home in their emails. I get it through Holderness because I work through with their emails and stuff. So, I mean, I've had parents ask me and I told them I was coming here tonight. I would like to know as soon as possible.
I can understand that. You know, I'd just like to say that you've done an amazing job with the camp. You know, we've got attendance like we've never had before. And we put it in the budget to extend it to 8 weeks because you have done such a remarkable job and because it's been paying for itself. The only question I will have is that, you know, if you can make it up in your own budget, that's fantastic. But, you know, again, we're running kind of close to the wire on our budget. And even though it's offset by income, we still have to maintain that bottom line.
Yes.
So that's something we'll have to consider very carefully. But, you know, any other comments?
The only thing I noticed, you said it, I did the math, it's about $1,950 is your cost to operate for a week. Now, if you figure in the second child discount and you add to that the $5 difference for out of school, out of town tuition, you're looking at about a $50 to $75 profit ratio for your whole department for the week. Is that average, or is that just, is that a rough number? So I'd hope that you're pulling in more than $50 to $75 profit a week off of 16 children.
No, we are. We are pulling more than that. What I'm doing, I'm going by the very lowest.
Okay.
If we have the bare minimum, we have more than that coming in. But I just wanted to show you that it will cover.
It just didn't leave a big range for tangibles, that's why I asked.
But everything is in there that needs to be in there. That is what I will need to do the entire week. And more than likely, like the cost of the trips, I averaged $200. I'm gonna have extra money in there more than likely, just like I did last year, because we do have a trip with Plymouth, we have a trip with Holderness, and we have a trip with Campton, which makes it cheaper for us to go because we have more kids going. So that line I kept down last year, and that's my plan for this year as well. I just wanted to show you guys the bare minimum. If I have the very least, it's still gonna cover.
Okay. I just didn't want to see you do so much work with no fruitation.
Oh no, this is covering everybody's staff and all of it.
Lee, do you have any comments?
No.
No? Casey, you have anything to say? Do you want to make a motion to table it?
Yes, I offered a motion to table
Okay, is there a
this.
second to table this discussion?
And it was on the basis, I don't know if someone on that end was out of the room, it was on the basis that we hadn't, I hadn't anyway, received, I believe none of us have received information in our packet that we usually receive from departments. And I just want to add, during one of the budget meetings in this previous year, I advocated for this. I support the summer camp. However, it's also very important that I make informed decisions, and I haven't received any information about this. So I don't feel at this time that it's best to make the decision.
So there's a motion on the floor to table it, the vote. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. You want to abstain, Casey? So then
Doesn't pass.
Can I,
it doesn't pass.
Can I
Yes,
say something?
This
certainly.
motion doesn't pass.
It's gonna work in my
Easy.
budget. So I'm basically just asking, is it okay for me to extend a week?
I understand what you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
I'm
we make
going to
everybody
make it-
walk in a line like good little ducks, just like you make all the
Okay.
kids walk in a line like good little ducks. And we're just trying to ensure conformity and transparency. That's all.
Unfortunately, Ann, because there was an abstention, the vote for the motion did not, it passed because...
No, it doesn't pass.
It doesn't
Nope,
pass,
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
pass.
pass, okay. So that's good, right? There's no motion,
You
so
can-
now we can make a motion to approve the plan. Okay, thank you. We can make a motion to approve the plan as presented by Ann, and again, making up out of your budget would be the best way to do it, so that we can keep an eye on that bottom line, okay? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, so it passes. All right,
Did we
Ann,
get a
again,
majority
thank you so much for, doing,
Well, that's not a
Well, you
majority.
abstained your vote.
Right, but
abstained.
isn't it a majority of the seated board, not?
it's a majority of the seated board, and it's 2-1, which is a quorum.
Well, we're seated, but we're not, we're abstaining. So it seems to me that,
The way I understand it is
Yeah,
that
still
there is a majority vote of those who voted
Yes.
on the motion, not abstaining.
okay, I'd just like that
That's right.
investigated, as a follow-up.
Okay, Ann, you want to talk about the stove while you're here?
Yes. Okay, so everybody knows we've been having issues with the gas stove. It smells, it's 400 years old and whatever. It's coming out Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
So happy to hear that.
The common man have agreed to bring their people in, dismantle it, take it apart, do whatever they
Wonderful.
need to do.
Charlie, make sure we write them a thank you note.
Yes,
Common man
Mm.
family.
nice.
That's
To do whatever
wonderful.
they need to do to get that. Tim has talked to them. He's
Is
helped me.
anybody buying it, or are we just going to junk it?
They're just taking it
They're
back.
just gonna-
Thank you
okay,
very much. We
all right.
liked it, but.
Okay. So no more propane.
Correct. Eastern Propane's gonna come out, cap it, and take the
Wonderful.
Nice.
Wonderful.
thing on Wednesday as well.
So there's some savings there.
Yes, yes, there
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
I've talked to Food for All.
Mhm.
We're only putting one stove in. We only need one stove. So that's, as soon as, after Wednesday happens, then we'll do that, and the hopes is to get that in before the next Tuesday, which is Food for All, but we need to see kind of like with the floor and wall.
Now, I assume we can get a standard stove at this point?
Yes, a regular kitchen.
Okay, because I know that when we looked at their pans and everything, they seemed super large, but as long as they can fit in an ordinary stove.
Now, is the kitchen wired for 220 for an electric
It's,
stove?
no, I have an electrician, he's coming in, he's already come over, looked at everything he's needed, and he's gonna put in a 50, whatever it is.
50, yeah.
Yep,
Yes, Stacia Singer.
whatever it needs in
Okay.
there, and he's gonna come in and do that after they get it out.
I'd like to move that this item also be tabled for the same reason that I stated for the previous item.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, we will continue the discussion on the stove. Can you give us some details on the stove, what you've got coming in?
I haven't picked one out yet.
Okay.
I'm just looking at, when we did it we got one last time for 2 stoves, and they were $5.98 each.
Okay.
I only need one. I'm assuming the pricing is gonna be right around there, might be a little more, because it's a few months later.
Yeah.
But everything is gonna be done for, I would say, under $800 with the
Okay.
electric and the.
And you have that in your budget?
Yes.
Yes, fantastic.
I'm just letting you know what's gonna happen
Okay.
Wednesday.
Have you figured where your stove is coming through? Is this a local purchase, or is this something that you're getting from a box?
We've got it from Plymouth, the estimates from Plymouth Furniture.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very glad to see that gas stove
Yeah.
gone. Very glad, and I'm sure the
Yes.
kids are too, and their parents.
Very
Okay,
unhealthy.
thank you, Ann. Thank you.
And the last thing on my, is for the roof at the bathhouse.
Yes.
When we were doing budgets, that roof is in really bad shape. It has moss, I don't know, inch, 2 inches thick. You guys have seen them.
Do you want to pass it around?
Pass them down again. And the roof needs to be replaced. We're looking at to get a metal roof put on there. That is not in my budget. But talking to Charlie, there is a fund for building improvements.
Building improvements, yes.
That I was hoping I could get that done, because we do get a lot of revenue from the campground. We need to keep the buildings up to, those haven't been changed in I don't know how long. Looking back, going back 15 years, there was no
Yeah.
record of.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move that this item be tabled to the next meeting for lack of information.
Is there a second? Hearing none, we'll continue the discussion. I trust you'll come to us when you get some estimates.
I got
in.
estimates.
Oh, you got estimates?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you hadn't gotten them yet. Sorry.
I didn't get estimates for the stove. I got for
Oh,
this.
okay, fine. Please go ahead then.
I've got estimates, the lowest one that I have is for $3,465.
And that's a metal roof, so that's sort of a lifetime roof.
Pretty much, yes. That's what they said.
That's installed.
Installed, and it's got metal wrapping, just inspected, he's licensed.
Okay,
Everything that it needs.
okay.
Does that include the removal of the mold and any application of any
Tim is going to,
disinfectant, or
do that, pressure wash it.
you just
spray
need to
it.
make sure that it's dead before you put metal roof?
Yeah,
on it?
exactly.
Create a problem later.
Right,
Right.
yes. Tim, so we already talked about it, Tim is going to do that part of the process.
Charlie, how do we stand with the building fund? Do you know of anything else that's gonna come up this year? I mean, this certainly is
Yeah,
applicable.
well, yeah, we have the fire alarm. Still waiting to hear back from, well, I talked to the guy today.
Okay.
Should get that quote in a week.
Okay. Do you have any guesstimates on that one?
No.
Okay.
But there is a capital reserve fund.
How much do we
Okay.
have in the capital reserve fund?
I thought it was like 25.
Well,
off the top
but
of
we
my head.
voted another 25 this
Yeah,
year,
I
so
think
we
so,
have
but-
50 or close,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
in that vicinity.
Yeah.
So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yep.
And, you know, this preserves one of our assets, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I have a motion to approve the expenditure for replacing or covering up the roof with a lifetime metal roof?
She doesn't have anything else that we need to speak of. I think on that list, there were some cinder blocks in that same building, and there was some mold mitigation in your bathhouse, and there was a shed that needed to be
This is just for the roof,
This is just
though.
for that.
Okay, because that was on
Yeah.
the whole list of the whole gamut you gave us.
Oh, no, I'm just doing
Okay.
the roof for right now, that's the major thing, I need that fixed for the
Yeah.
for the campground.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the money for replacing that roof at the bathhouse?
I'll make that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'd like to say that although most of the time I stand with Tejas Singh, I can tell him that this project right here is a moneymaker for us, and that is the only reason why you don't have my backing on it, is because this is a moneymaker. This is one of the few departments we have that is always bringing in money.
All those in favor of expending the money,
$3,465.
from the capital reserve fund to fix the roof at the bathhouse, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
2 abstentions? Passes. Good, thank you, Ann. Anything else?
No,
Okay, excellent.
thank you.
Public Works. Tim, is Tim out there? You want to come in?
Sure.
Okay. So we have an agreement from the Lakes Region Planning Commission. This is something we had talked to them about last year, to do a paving plan for us. And we have the contract, and this would give us an analysis of the road. Let me read the scope of the work so everybody is in. Let's see. So there would be a municipal kickoff meeting, an inventory data collection, production of maps, a pavement managing and forecasting, and delivery of final products to the municipality with a presentation. They would start on in July 2017 and be completed by 2017. And this could be a roadmap for how we do our roads going forward, which I think for transparency would benefit us as a town. It would benefit the Public Works Department, because then you have something to show that, you know, you've gotten a third party opinion on what roads need to be done when. So I think it's money well spent. That's my opinion. Tim, I'd like your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly spoke to Jeff Hayes about it when you instructed me from the last meeting.
Yeah.
You know, they're already moving forward with our culvert, our culvert plan, and we're at the top of the list for that. So, I mean, it's basically the same software that's going to do this. It is going to be a huge benefit to the town. It's, you know, the way it's explained to me, I ride the roads with him. He just, we grade them, and he types it in the computer, and it spits out a cost. The type of preservation, and I mean, which I've been working on anyways. But it's just going to give us a more accurate dollar figure on it. So it's, I mean, it's.
Do they rank those? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Charlie.
Do they rank the roads?
Yeah, that's one thing I will work with him on. And, you know, they've been labeling, dealing with our roads for a while. I mean, that's where we get our list of roads from, the footage. You know, it's when the traffic counts all come through LRPC. So they're quite aware of everything that we have. I mean, that's where we get a lot of our information from, is from them. So, I mean, it's. You know, the $7,500 isn't anything to balk at, but I think in the long run it probably will be worth it. We just, you know, it's up to the board what they want to do.
Right. Do I have any other comments on the board?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So it says under item 12, the commission costs to perform the scope of services is $7,500, and the cost of the town to obtain the services is $7,500. So that is the same $7,500. It's not a retainer. Excuse me. So, because it kind of reads like the second $7,500 may be a retaining fee.
No,
in addition to that.
The way I understand it, it's the total is $7,500 to be paid in two payments.
For the scope of the work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
My only question is one of Mr. Hayes' expertise helping you judge whether or not something needs a full repaving or a chip seal?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that, I mean, he's gonna rely on my opinion also. I mean, that's why we're gonna work together on it. I mean, they don't just come in and.
No, well, you know the roads.
They don't make the decision.
No, I know that.
No, this road can go another 5 years, you know, it's something that we work together on.
Well, they always say there's more than one set of eyes, it's better.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, and, you know, I'm gonna get into it a little bit, another road after this, but, you know, I did take a pavement preservation class 2 years ago, and I learned a lot from it, and I think, and this program is through the UNH T² program, and that's where I took a pavement preservation class for us through that program. So they're working in coordination with UNH and these guys that teach these pavement preservation classes. So they have all that information as well that I have. So it's going to work well together, I believe. So
we're paying somebody $7,500 to get Tim's opinion?
We are paying $7,500 to get some expertise, to work with Tim, who knows the town roads better than anybody, to ride with him and give us their opinion and on what is the sequence of events in terms of how we paved these, is the way I understand it. Yes, Tim?
Madam Chair.
Yes, yes.
Point of order, the gentleman in the public was not recognized by the chair prior to speaking.
I understand that. Okay. Any other comments on the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Another comment. So this sounds like you know, a good thing to do. I think it's premature at this point. My sense is that we have very clearly some roads that need to be handled at this time, and working on managing that right now, getting over the hump, kind of, you know, clearing those roads, getting that underway, and then revisiting this would be better.
Well, this gives us a long-term plan for all roads.
That's right.
You know, I've been working on a capital improvement plan over the years, and I kind of, after I took the pavement preservation class that I spoke of, I kind of blew it up and started over again because of what LRPC has learned and what I have learned, because there's new ways of pavement preservation, you know, cheaper ways of doing it. So I think this is going to be a good long-term plan. It'll address all our roads, what the cost will be, so we can start budgeting a little bit better for it in the future. And maybe with their expertise, we can also, you know, I might grade a road a certain way, but they may say, well, geez, you know, Tim, this road probably isn't that bad, or this road is a lot worse than what you actually think. And we can, working together, we can get a better idea of it. So, and it's something that's going to be, it's not going to get thrown out. And like I said, it's every road, so we will have a plan for the future. It's just, after that, it's just going to be a matter of budgeting for the projects after that. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So my understanding is, going to two specific roads, the Thompson Street and Smith Hill. My understanding is that we have engineering plans done for that, and the permits on those engineering plans have a lifespan of 5 years, which is probably down to about 4 years at this point. So my concern is that regardless of what this report at this time says, we really need to try to make, you know, the best choice in how to use those engineering plans before the permits expire. So that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, this is not throwing Thompson, High Street, Smith Hill out the window. That is still going to be the #1 priority, and I mean, but the townspeople have to vote yes on that project. So we'll go over that road when we do this plan, but I'll talk to Jeff Hayes, and he's probably already aware of it, that we've already done a study, we've already done engineering on it, so he already knows that's in place. Or if he doesn't, then I'll make him aware of that.
And some of the prioritization comes from that kind of cost. I mean, unfortunately, Thompson and Smith Hill have gone so long that they require total reconstruction, and so the cost of those roads is significant, which is why we had to go to a town vote. You know, the hope has always been, since we started the capital improvement, that we would have enough money in the road capital reserve once those two are done to continue the routine maintenance of the road. And if we have a plan to follow, we just take that capital reserve and work on those roads. And they're not major reconstructions. I don't think anything else is a major. We do have Highland Street coming up, and they will need to know this, that the state is going to pay 80% of.
It's going to be an 80-20.
So that is already in the plan. So that needs to be taken into account. But we want to ensure that we maintain the roads that we have, because we don't want any of the rest of them to get into the Smith Hill, Thompson Street condition ever. But you know, that because of the major cost, we have to take that to a bond.
And that's why I brought up the last meeting about the chip sealing of North Ashland Road. I mean, that's a good form of pavement preservation, and if we don't start doing that sort of thing with these other roads, then we're, like I said, we're going to have a bunch of Thompson Streets on our hands. If we don't, we can't neglect everything.
No, we can't.
So
we can't.
All right.
Will this be happening prior to or after your planned paving of River Street?
This?
Yes.
This will take place over the summer. It depends on.
They're not going to start until July. So I mean, by the first June meeting, the board will have the bids for River Street to view and make a decision then.
So the only reason why I ask is that, you know, we're talking about preserving roads and whatnot, and I've noticed that the nitrates that are washing down, like you said, off of Thompson and Smith down into the Squam River, and it has to pass over River Street to get to the Squam River. So that was my concern, is if we go ahead and pave that, will he have any input for us prior to that, you know, whether or not any of that mitigation of nitrates or dirt down the hill is going to mess up the pavement that you just had laid down?
Yeah, no, it won't.
It just always runs downhill. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on this plan with LRPC?
No.
And I have a motion to approve the expenditure from our road fund for this paving plan.
I'll make that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I think you should call it the street improvement line.
The street improvement line, yes, thank you, Tim.
Clarify.
Street improvement line. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the Lakes Region Planning Commission professional services agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Charlie, will you take care of that?
Yes.
I will look forward to hearing what they have to say.
Send it to them tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
I have, when I brought up,
Does,
You have something else?
yeah, okay, while you're here, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's
No,
all right.
is that okay?
No, that's fine, go ahead.
I don't know what
That-
Charlie put on the list for me.
No,
but
that's
I
fine.
figured I had airtime, so.
You have the floor.
I talked about chip sealing North Ashland Road.
Yes.
You asked for a number.
Yes.
This is an updated number, which is less than what he quoted me last year by about $2,000.
Wow.
$98,342.80.
That is to chip seal the 3-mile stretch of North Ashland Road.
Okay. So this would come out of partly our
This would-
capital reserve
it would-
and partly
I would take it completely out of capital reserve right now.
Okay.
Because we don't know what we're gonna, we still have that street improvement line.
Mhm.
But, I have the River Street bids out.
Yeah.
So, this is, to go back what we were kind of talking about, this is a good form of pavement preservation. I think, I had the gentleman up here last year. This is a good candidate for chip sealing because it hasn't gotten to the point where the cracks are bad, where the water's getting in the road, where the road is starting to sink. We shimmed the worst spots last fall. So I think it's inexpensive, and it's not a Band-Aid. It's a cheap.
How long does this last?
That will last, they give that a life of about 6 years of pavement preservation.
Okay,
Your shim and overlay is about 8 years.
okay.
But you're going to more than double the cost. So I think it's a better alternative for us right now. I will tell you, Meredith and Molten Borough did quite a bit of chip sealing last year. I went down to a couple of roads in Molten Borough and looked over after they had done it. This company has been in business for, well, the guy that I know runs the business. The company's been doing it since he's 13 with his father, so we're talking 40, 50 years in business here, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
I'd like to motion that we table this item for lack of information. I did not receive any information on this particular item prior to the meeting.
Well, Tim did bring it to us and said he was going to get a bid. This has actually been brought before us in the past, so.
A few months ago.
Yeah. So this is just following up on that information.
Still think it would be helpful to have it beforehand.
All right, you've making a motion. Is there anyone that wants to second the motion to
I
table
will
this?
second for further discussion, because there's 2 questions I would like answered.
Okay.
I would like to know, did we bid out to 3 different agencies? And is the $2,000 savings directly reflected only by the cost of oil going down, or did you also get the reflected cost adjustment from any other companies that bid out?
There is no other companies in this area that does chip sealing. The closest company that I found was in Western New York. So
I
they.
just know Sunderland's a little
Yes,
bit
they
of a
kind of have a monopoly, if you want to put it that way. But it's a very well-established company. They stand behind their work. He didn't express to me what the savings was. He just, it's by the square yard, and it was cheaper per the square yard of material. It may be due to, the oil prices going down. I'm not 100% sure. When the price goes down, I really didn't ask the question why it went down. I was just happy that it did go down, so.
I just know that we usually have a 3-bid process, so I didn't know.
No, I definitely would have gone to other companies had there been other companies to put it out to bid. This is not, this is just a quote from him. I didn't send him a bid package or anything. I just wanted to quote because I know that he's the only company around that does this.
Do we usually put out 3 bids for other jobs as well, though?
For paving, we do.
Yeah,
Every time.
the bid policy for the town is anything over $10,000.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and as far as the paving goes, I've contacted 3 paving companies. I've emailed them the specs for River Street. It's also going out in the paper. So if any other paving companies want to bid on that, they're more than welcome. We can take as many as we want.
Of course.
But we are kind of, when it comes to this sort of pavement preservation, you're kind of locked into one guy unless you want to have somebody come in from Western New York that's probably going to cost you a lot more money.
Probably.
And they wouldn't waste their time probably.
Probably not.
For a 3-mile stretch of road. But.
Right. So there's a motion on the floor to table the discussion. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of tabling this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
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 Nay. Okay, so now can I have a motion to approve this 98,000? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay. 98,342.80.
I'll make that motion.
I have a second. I'll second it. Further discussion. We did plan for this last year because we approved you to shim it. And it is a lot of money, and you know, those of us who live on the worst streets would rather it be spent on that. But we started this process last year, and I think it's in our best interest to finish it.
This is why I made that comment. We can't neglect the other roads.
No.
You know, we have to do a little bit here and there.
Okay.
So
So all those in favor of the chip sealing contract, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question for information?
Okay.
Because I have to use that road for haying, and I'm just curious as to when this is gonna happen.
it's gonna be on
Says
his.
July to November.
No, that's the pavement plan. This is the chip sealing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Could you get us some information so
I
we
will-
can
I
let
definitely
everybody
will.
know?
I'll contact him, but I have to wait for you, because you guys have to write a letter to the trustees to release
To
that
get the
money.
money,
So
okay.
As soon as I hear back from you, I mean, I'll contact him tomorrow anyways and get a time schedule from him. but
Please.
I won't officially set it up until the trustees release the money to the board
Okay.
of selectmen.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's all I have.
All right. Okay, old business. Last meeting, we talked about a new business that's coming into town. Mr. Levi Bradley is working on plans to purchase or rent the Scribner Building, which is part of the mill complex, to build a distillery. And he's been working on getting funding for that. And he asked me that he just needs a letter of support for the town, basically saying that we don't oppose that type of business. And we, you know, agreed to have Charlie look into this with our town attorney.
So I drafted a letter and I worked with it with legal. This is what we basically came up with.
Okay.
And legal recommended the board just vote the approval that we release it.
Okay, so the letter states, as it's May 1st, at its May 1st, 2017 meeting, May 1st?
Tonight.
Tonight.
You would approve it. This is assuming.
They already wrote it.
Oh, it's the 1st.
You approved it yeah.
I thought it was still April, silly me. Okay.
Assuming you approve it. I mean, you did last week, so
I know,
I'm assuming, or 2 weeks ago.
I swear I thought it was still
Assuming
April.
you'd-
Okay.
If not, I would throw it away.
The Ashland Board of Selectmen voted to indicate its support for your proposed establishment of a distillery business in the town of Ashland. This position is, of course, taken, one, subject to further evaluation by this board as it receives additional details about the proposal, and two, subject to the proposal receiving all necessary approvals through the town's land use boards. We wish you the best of luck in this new venture. Yes?
I'll move that we sign this letter as written.
A second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Charlie, I will give this, oh, you have
I got
it?
one.
You will sign this letter and
Yeah.
give it to Mr. Bradley?
Sure.
Fantastic, thank you so much.
Yep.
Love to see new business in town.
Yep.
Okay, any other old business?
No.
Okay, new business, Ashland Historical Society. David, do you have something to say to us about the Whipple House?
Well, I sent everybody a letter.
Okay, is there any you want to send? Okay, I'll read the letter. Dear sirs, the Ashland Historical Society Board requests your permission to make at least 2 alterations at the Whipple House property. We previously received permission to remove dead trees as needed, but we now would like to remove 2 living trees, 2 large maples located between the Witten House and the southern apartment shed of the Whipple House. The southern tree is of immediate concern as it has dead limbs and a large hollow in the trunk behind a gash that is over 2 feet high and about 6 inches wide. The tree is rotting out from the inside and could lose limbs or fall over soon. The northern tree is healthier but aging, so we are concerned about its proximity, to the 2 buildings and the potential for damage to them. We plan to hire a contractor with a crane to remove both the trees at this time. There's also some question about past votes on alterations to the Whipple House. My impression was that the selectmen had approved the installation of a fan in the apartment bathroom and a railing around the stairway in the second story of the apartment shed, but I could not find any record of such votes in your meeting minutes. The bathroom fan was recommended by Dan Vaughn, who recently repaired and painted the bathroom ceiling because the moisture from the shower will continue to damage the ceiling. The railing around the stairway was required by the town building inspector because the unprotected stairway opening is hazardous and violates the safety codes. If you could confirm your past decisions or make new decisions on the fan or the railing, we would appreciate it. Comments? Questions? Yes.
So do we have, Charlie, do you know, is there any record of this second portion here about the board making a decision on the bathroom fan and the railing?
No. That was before me.
Mm.
Yeah. Before August.
We had a long discussion with the Historical Society about...
Before you go any
yes.
further, I will say to you, we have an agreement with the Whipple House that board makes decisions to any alterations,
right.
but they pay for it.
Right. And I was just...
So that's why they've come to us.
So it's a separate fund that they have?
Yes.
Okay.
So I know we had a long discussion. You presented pictures of all the damage to the Whipple House, and at that meeting, we did agree that they should have control over what needs to get done. We just need to approve it. So specifically, do I remember the railing or the fan? No, however, it seems like it's something we would have agreed to, so.
I believe the fan was the same discussion we had about the ceiling where they had a facade around where they had moisture damage. And our concern, if I recall correctly, was that the ceiling in the bathroom does not get to that point. And that this would be a way to mitigate it and alleviate any future issues.
Right, yes, you're correct, Harold.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So to clarify, there's a separate trust fund, or what type, or is it a budget?
It's no separate. It's the Historical Society's money.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's within the budget. It's within
It's the Historical Society's money. It's not our budget.
Okay,
It's
that's
not
what I
our
need to
budget.
know. That it's a separate entity.
Yes, it is.
Got it.
We just need to approve we don't have to pay for them, we just have to approve it. Even though it is a town asset.
I'll motion that this second half here, that the bathroom fan and the railing, the things that are asked for in the second paragraph, that we grant permission for that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and as to the trees, is there a motion to approve the plan to remove the damaged trees and the old trees?
I'll make that motion to preserve this piece of property. It's very historic to our town.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
All those in
Wait,
favor?
I have
Oh, yes,
discussion.
okay.
Yeah. So I have some concern about removal of the trees just completely. I think that there's some other creative things that can be done with them. Admittedly, I have not seen these trees, okay? However, I just did some research, and seems to be some interesting things in terms of like maintaining the tree, capping the tree, taking off the tree, and maintaining it for creatures to kind of live in, etc. There's also I was reading that you could prune, and some of these trees could be maintained for several years. So I have some concern about removing trees, in the town in general. And I printed off some information as an alternative. Perhaps you'd want to read through it, perhaps you wouldn't. But there is some very interesting items in here about how to manage older trees and dying trees without completely removing them. So.
Sounds expensive.
I was going to ask if you had like a idea of how much that would cost as opposed to just removing them.
I do not have an idea about how much it would cost.
Yeah. You're still going to lose it in the end.
Any further discussion?
I guess my only question is the imminent chance of any loss of property. Would you place this high on your estimate? I mean, is this a crucial structural part of the building that this is leaning over, or is it something that has always been a problem?
They're very close to both buildings.
Okay.
Don't know what the distance is, but
not much space
5-6
between
feet.
them.
Okay.
That's
pretty close.
Now the northern tree, the healthier one, is not really in trouble right now. The one to the south, though, is dying. There is like I said, a gash in the trunk, and it's just hollowing out. It's rotting out in the center, and a couple of major limbs are rotting are dead, and they could fall at any time. So we're particularly concerned about the southern tree as a hazard. So, I mean, that was our concern, to damage to the two buildings. I mean, the kinds of trees on the property.
Well, and if limbs fall, you could injure somebody too, so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
They
it's
were walking
remote
there.
chance, but it's possible.
Yeah,
So-
there isn't too much
You'd have to
traffic
have somebody
there,
assess it.
but
Yeah.
it's more of the damage to the two buildings. There is potential. Of course, it always depends on which way they fall, where the wind's blowing, and all that kind of stuff.
Have you gotten any professional assessment on the healthier tree?
Just for taking it down.
Okay, it might be worth talking to, you know, like Mark Liebert or somebody who does that for a living, just to get his thoughts on it. He's with the ARA. But in terms of the rotted tree, I don't see any reason to delay myself.
I don't either.
So, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the removal of the tree. I'd like to make an amendment to that motion that we approve the removal of the rotted tree, and that the Historical Society just get additional information on the health, longevity, necessity of removing the healthier tree at this time.
I'll second that amendment.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
So they have to wait until they get that assessment, right, before they go ahead? In case
Well, they can remove the dead tree.
Right, well, we'd
second
rather do
tree.
it all at once, right?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, and so it might be, you know, behoove you to do it sooner rather than later to get the assessment. And if you get an assessment that the other one should come down too, then they should both go down at the same time to save cost, I would think.
Probably. I don't know if I didn't get the
Okay,
estimates.
well, those are things to consider. Casey's right, you know, you don't want to spend extra money to have them come back the second time if you're going to save money if they both need to come down, but I do recommend you get a little bit more information on the healthier tree. Is that okay? So all those in favor of the amendment, the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, if you report back to us, David, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we could proceed on the dying tree.
Yeah, I mean, it's your money. You can do them both at once if you think the other one needs, if you get the assessment that the other one needs to come down. But if it doesn't need to come down, go ahead with the other one anyway. It's your,
So
you
does he
know.
need to come back for approval for the second tree, no matter what?
I don't think so, because we approved the coming down with the amendment that he get an advice on the second tree before he takes it down. I think
So it
that's the
would
way.
be up to him.
It would be up to him at this point. Just if there's any way to preserve it, that would be great. But if not, if they really think it should come down, then take it down.
Okay, so what we need is an assessment that says the tree should come down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, before we take it down.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you, David. Building inspector contract. So this is something we've been talking about for a while. I hope everybody's read it. Are there any questions or concerns?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
So I was reading on the municipal website, and I read about how there is some concern regarding multiple year contracts and how that kind of goes into the select board appropriating funds, which were to, not do. So I was thinking that we could maybe change it to a 1-year contract and otherwise keep it the same.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, we do have multi-year contracts with other people, like, for example, our police chief. So it's not unheard of. And, I mean, that's something to consider, but on the other hand, having a contract for him for 3 years, gives us some assurance that he's going to continue to do the work, so.
Right now, there's no contract?
No, we've always done it at a handshake, and we decided that's probably not the best way to do it. We should have something in writing.
Is there any legality against us having a multi-year contract with someone who's on a part-time basis? Did we research that?
Good question. I didn't get into that detail. Yeah.
No.
That would be my only concern, because when you're talking budgetary requirements, if you're looking at a part-time employee, if you're going on 3 years. I know in the past I've been involved with the budget committee for 3 years. I've never seen a multi-year contract on a part-time employee. That's my only concern. Every year Parks and Rec rehires the same people because they're part-time. So I'm just trying to make sure everything's...
I mean, this came from legal.
Okay. Would he be satisfied, you think, with a
Yeah.
1-year contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or would who?
Would Al be
Oh, I don't
be
know.
agreeable to
I don't know.
why don't you ask him?
Probably. I mean, yeah. I mean, he still has to, the board approves this, I'll send it to him.
Yeah.
And see what he says.
Right. Yes.
Madam Chair, I will motion that we approve the contract on the stipulation that the 3 years is changed to 1 year.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
I just want to make sure that we're not caught in a bind
Mhm.
legally. We have enough expunged out of our legal fund right now that we don't need anything else.
All those in favor of approving this on a one-year basis, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
1 year term. 1 year term?
1 year term.
Okay.
If there's some major objection to that, let us know and we can always discuss it again. Okay, the next thing is the operational guideline and handbook that we have looked at. And there was some objection to it at the last meeting, and I asked that we all review it, and that if you have objections to any specific items in it, that you bring those to the board, so that we know what the objection to this handbook is. Yes?
Thank you. So I first want to bring you to item M, disqualifications. And I'll read it for the public.
What page is that?
It's page 8. And it reads, selectmen should disqualify themselves from the board and step down from all participation in deliberations, to include voting on any subject matter where there is a conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest. A selectman should voluntarily disqualify himself, herself, whenever he, she has a direct personal or pecuniary interest in the outcome. So, I want to open with, I had a member of the public come to me and express concern about a perceived conflict of interest in our last meeting. And unfortunately the perceived conflict of interest was among one of the board members who supported this handbook. So for this, what happened was, for me, was a concern was raised when I was hearing from this member of the public that there are board members, board members that want to have the handbook, and yet there are board members that are not, perhaps in the perception of this individual in the public, were not adhering to the handbook.
Well, I'd like specifics. I assume you're talking about me and recusing myself from the vote, the discussion. I talked as a resident, not as a selectman. Right. I did recuse myself from the discussion. Yes. I had no part in that discussion other than as a resident. So if there's a perception that I acted improperly, and I assume you're talking about me, then that was a perception. Yes, we're talking about Smith Hill Road.
Actually, the member of the public was not talking about Smith Hill. Since you've invited me to share the details,
okay.
I will do that. There was concern about personal relationship between the chair of the Board of Select and the chair of the Water and Sewer Commission.
Aha, okay, got it.
And let me finish.
Okay.
That on February 27th, that the commissioner, who is now the board, or the chair of the Water and Sewer Commission, got into a very heated conversation and debate with another member of the Board of Selectmen, and that currently the Water and Sewer Commission has expressed a very different perspective on the Northern Pass. Actually, since February 27th, that was very clear. And this member of the public was concerned that there was a conflict of interest on the part of the chairperson of the Board of Select because of the perception or of a direct personal interest in the outcome.
Okay, may I speak, please? I've heard that going around. Let me assure anybody that when I talk about my opinions about Northern Pass, it is in the interest of the town. And the fact that I am married to the chair of the Water and Sewer Commission has absolutely nothing to do with it. We do happen to agree, and of course I know the details of all of the work that's been done, all the discussions that have been going on. I'm well aware of all of the issues, and I speak for the town, only the town. I would never ever say anything in favor of the water and sewer if it opposed the best interest of the town. So I don't care what perceptions are. I feel very justified in saying that I acted properly. So I have no issue with that being in this handbook. I will abide by this. And I think I have a right to speak for the town.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I ask that the Vice Chair take chairmanship at this moment, since the conversation is...
No, I disagree with that. I think we should move on. I want to know what else in this thing you have objections to. I said that I abide by this, and I think anybody on the board should abide by this, including me, and I think I've demonstrated that.
Well, Madam Chair, you did just say that you did not care about the perception of a conflict of interest, so that raises a great concern.
I don't think that one person's opinion should guide the way this board operates. That's why I say don't care. Yes, if they care, they should come and talk to me, but I feel very confident in defending what I have done. And we cannot change our rules of procedure, our operating guidelines, because one person has some gripe. That's why I'm saying it.
Or one person has a different read on this item, such as yourself.
I don't think that I have a different read on this item. I think the different read was on that particular issue. I believe I acted properly and did not need to recuse myself from any discussion. And so I do not disagree with the way this thing is written, period.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to ask if there's any other members of the board that have a concern about that particular item before we move on.
My only concern about this item is the perception to our public. Is that we're sitting up here, we've all been elected to sit here and to give our advice to each other, representative from the town, because they are our bosses. It's not the other way around. I just want to make sure that this same issue, I mean, I've highlighted 5 or 6 other things, that if Mr. Tasia Singer is saying that there are people coming forth now, I'm looking at all these other highlighted things that are very similar, you know, whereas not to do business for your own personal gain, relationships with other town boards and committees. I just don't want to see this come back to haunt you. We have some epic legal battle where we all go down to Concord and sit around the round table and someone says, well, you're married to that one, and does that make us all look like a horse's ass? That's my only concern, is my own personal reputation being affected because of any doings of someone who's married to or that sits on the board with me.
I've never seen her do anything that...
I haven't either.
Besides being fair and honest.
But I'm just saying that the perception from the townspeople is my only concern. And if that's being brought forward to us now at this table, then that is a concern of mine.
Well, there's other married couples that sit on committees as well. Yeah. Are you saying that there should be a conflict of interest between Marlene and her husband?
Nope, not at all. I'm just saying that you have to look at every situation individually.
I think we're getting beyond the scope of the discussion of this book. We're having an issue with my behavior or perception of my actions rather than the validity of this book. And I think we should get back to the pertinent discussion.
Let me interject here. Conflict of interest, if you read later in this book under ethics, conflict of interest states, in order to assure the independence and impartiality on behalf of the common good, officials should not use their public position to influence government decisions in which they have a material financial interest, or where they have an organizational responsibility or personal relationship which may give the appearance of a conflict of interest. There's no personal gain that I see. Now, with that being said, I talked to another town administrator about this, and really all this guidebook is more for any future individuals that might be interested in becoming a selectman. That this will help you, if you have interest someday, this will help you show you what it might be a little bit like to be a selectman, the certain protocol that is expected of the board and sort of how things are conducted. That's all it really is. There's nothing in it that's going to be legal or get you into court or anything like that.
I just like to know what the parameters are of something that I sign. And what everyone here should.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to offer a different recommendation in terms of making sure that people are working on the same page. There are courses that are run for the information of selectmen, for other officials as well. I'm going to be going to one in June 3rd. it will cover, you know, a myriad of things. And one of the things that they give you is this book here, Knowing the Territory. I'm currently borrowing this from the town office, and I've been using it, and I find it very helpful. It covers ethics.
Yeah, we all have that.
We all have it. We've all been
have
to, those of us on the board currently have been to this training as well.
Right, so it seems to me, and currently they're not charging anything, seems to me that maybe it would be, in the interest of time, better to set aside the handbook, retain it as an informational packet, like I said in the past, and have, on a yearly basis, have all of the select board go to the training and use this as our reference manual.
The reason I like this, and I agree that that's a fantastic reference. I've used it many times, and we've all been to, many of us have been to that training. The reason I like this is because it's distilled. They refer to RSAs. Now we can sit down and read every RSA and try to find that one RSA that relates to our discussion. This is it. It's all here. We don't have to just do research on 5 different sources to look for the information. It's all here. So what I want to know is there any one thing other than somebody's perception of a violation of one of these paragraphs that you object to? I mean, we should be adhering to all of these rules of conduct and ethics. And the RSAs are referred to here, and it's an easy handbook. And I thank Mardine Badger for her introductory statements, because I think she distilled this information very well.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that it's not just the concern of one member. I've actually had several members of the public raise the same issue, and I have the concern, personally, as a member of the board. But to move on to other things, certainly, let's move on to other things. So one of the other concerns that I have is the amount of authority that's vested in the chair. For example, the control of the agenda. I think that it would be better if all of the selectmen could enter items onto the agenda. I have tried to ask...
Excuse me, all of the selectmen have that opportunity. Charlie does the agenda, and he sends it out for approval.
Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to complete my statement.
I know.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have asked the town administrator on a couple of occasions if I could have something added to the agenda. Prior to the previous meeting, I asked if public comments could be added to the agenda, and I was told that he would have to consult with the chairperson, and public comments, as far as I know, were not added onto the agenda.
We always had public comments.
Consult with the board.
Is that what you said? Consult with the board? Thank you, Charlie.
So, my concern remains that I believe that the chairperson would have an undue privilege to control the agenda, especially as it's written here. So if in fact you do want to have all of the selectmen be able to add to the agenda, then that item should probably be changed.
We can certainly add a statement saying that any selectman is capable or able to insert an agenda item as appropriate. I do not control the agenda.
But that's part of a chair's job.
I know.
To read Robert's Rules of Order.
I know. But it's not a matter of control. It's a matter of putting it together. But there's always things that come up. I hear from other selectmen that I want to discuss this. I said I'll put it on the agenda.
Well, maybe you should change the word control.
If that's what's objectionable, I don't control it. I don't want to control it.
What page is that?
Page 2. It's section 3, duties of the selectmen, item A, number 1. Moving on, actually, also, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So the parliamentary procedures under item 2 in that same section ensure that informal parliamentary procedures are followed. What type of parliamentary procedures? Are we adopting Robert's rules, or some other system of procedure?
We haven't adopted Robert's rule. I think, we've been very clear about what our parliamentary procedures are, where we have not votes and
but we basically go by
we go by parliamentary procedures. We propose things, we get seconds, we have discussions. I'm not sure what we're not doing, but it's not necessarily Robert's Rules of Order. It's informal. the way it's written here. I mean, I'm not sure what the concern is.
Well, I mean, my concern is informal or formal. I'd like to have some idea of what the basic procedures are that we're going to be following. I do notice that in here there is a mention of how meetings would be optimally run, but I don't feel that answers all the questions that may arise. So,
where was this?
Oh, in the back there is a list.
Guidelines for running effective meetings.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It's also in knowing the territory.
Yeah. Right, it is in knowing the territory. Again, that's maybe why that would be a good book. So, I'd like to make a motion that if the board is intending to move through this, that we set up a process by which we can move through section by section, because there are several items, and I don't want to, use a lot of the public's time or the board's time this evening. Perhaps we could go through section, one section per meeting for the next couple months and clarify things.
I have no objection to that.
Or you could just have one meeting, we'll go through all of it.
We could have a special work session, however you want to do it. I'm fine with that. I don't want to spend the night discussing this whole thing either. So I'm fine with that. If that's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on.
Are we going to set a date for it?
Well, we'll discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. One other item under new business, I'd like to make an announcement, and that is that the Ashland Community Garden is due to reopen. And there are plots still available if anybody wants to join the community garden. For those of you who don't know, the community garden is located off of School Street, near the parking lot of the elementary school. We have 22 raised beds that we have been operating for about 4 years now. I've gotten great community participation. The beds are 8 by 20, I believe, 8 by 20. No, that's not
They're
right.
4 by 8.
They're 4 by, they're what?
They're 4 by 8. I said
4 by 8, thank you. Okay, I'm a little bit muffled, as you can imagine. It's organic gardening only. We do have a master gardener, and we have certified organic gardeners that are advisors for this. And it's a great way for people who don't have room for a garden, can come over and plant a few vegetables. We provide all kinds of resources. It's all fenced in. It has water and everything. So I just want to let people know that if you're interested in a plot at the garden, it's $10 for the season. And there is a sign-up sheet at the town hall. Okay. Select board items. First, before we get into the discussion about the special election, because I imagine there'll be a discussion, we did get an invitation from Katie. Where did I put it? Katie is the Communities for Alcohol and Drug-Free Youth that we give to as a town, and there is a meeting, a regional prevention summit on May 26th. If anybody's interested, I will pass this around. Okay, now we want to get into the costs for the special election. We've heard a lot from our visitors, and the town clerk has estimated the cost at $16.44, and that would be assuming there's a primary. If you have more than one person vote running in any one party, you have to have a primary. If there is no primary, the cost is $822. And I think Patsy clarified what all those expenses are for. So, yes, Lee.
How do we know if there's going to be a primary or not?
We have to wait till people put their name in to run. And there will be a primary if there are 2 people from any one party.
So there's no way to
If there's one from each party, then there's no primary, and it's just a straight election.
Okay, I see.
I guess I would ask the same question, because earlier we had a gentleman who said there was many candidates looking to run for that, so wouldn't that pretty much guarantee a primary?
Not necessarily. I think one person told us that from the Democratic side, they're assured that there's only going to be one, and she couldn't speak for the Republican side, but was hoping that they would convince the party to run one person, because this impacts not just Ashland, but many other towns.
But should we be operating under the assumption that it will be a primary?
Well, we have to be prepared,
Right.
yes, to spend the 1644, should there be a need for a primary.
I only stated this because if someone is a representative already, they're obviously more in the know than we are as far as how many people would like to put their hat in the ring for that. And if we have more than one, then obviously we have to budget for a primary.
Well, yeah, I think we have to budget for the primary
Anyway, yeah, we
and
do.
hope that there isn't one. But anyway, those are the costs. So you've heard a lot of comments tonight. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody that has come to share their thoughts on this matter. I want to read from Article 9 of the New Hampshire Constitution. It's under representatives elected every second year, apportionment of representatives. And it says, there shall be in the legislature of this state a House of Representatives biannually elected and founded on principles of equality and representation therein, and representation therein shall be as equal as circumstances will admit. I believe that we're given a wonderful, really patriotic duty here to allow for equality by having an election for to fill this position. I think that it's very important that we consider the fact that the approximate 3,200 individuals that would be represented by that person, that representative, are paying taxes, and they are due representation. Also, the fact that Northern Pass is such an important topic for us on various levels, it seems to me that it would be advantageous to have additional representation there. And finally, I'd like to say that having an additional representative for those individuals balances power and makes sure that power is distributed equally. If there were only 2 representatives representing more than their apportioned number of individuals, there would be an imbalance of power. So I see this as also, checking the balance of power. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I think it's important that we allow representation. If we want people to not invoke the 10th article, we should definitely represent them with the 9th. We're one of the only few great states that allows the people to remove us all if they care to under our Constitution. So I think it's very important that we allow them the chance to elect somebody to replace the gentleman who stepped down.
I'll agree.
Any other comments?
I don't have any objections to it, but
Okay.
it was stated that other towns didn't want to do this.
From what I've heard, and maybe somebody in the audience can confirm this, is that no other town, Bristol, I know, it was mentioned to us, has opposed it, and I believe that Bridgewater has opposed it. I do not know the reasons. It could be for budget, I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate.
And if we ask for the special election to happen, it has to take
That's right,
place
that's
in
what I
every
said.
town,
It
right?
impacts all of the other towns.
Okay, that's just something to keep in mind.
Madam
Yes,
Chair?
yes.
I will make the motion that that the Ashland Board of Selectmen request a special election to fill the state representative seat in Grafton County District 9 that was left vacant by the resignation of the former representative in accordance with RSA Chapter 661 8, following the provisions of RSA 655-81 and RSA 655-82.
I'll second that motion to find a replacement for Mr. Shackett to represent us.
Any further discussion?
Just so we don't have an issue with forcing other towns to do this, because I know at the last meeting we had an issue with some sort of perception for how us signing the site access agreement
Right.
would look towards other towns.
You're right.
And this is going to directly influence the amount of money they have to spend on this.
You're absolutely right
So,
about that.
I'm just curious.
No.
I don't have an issue
No.
at all.
I know.
I would like to do the special election, but
Mhm.
it just seems weird that we split flop from one game to the other.
It's an excellent point, excellent observation. I must say that there was a time when I would have opposed this because of what Patsy talked to us at the beginning about having 2 representatives and the fact that the next general election is a year away. However, having heard the impassioned comments from our audience, I think that I've been swayed.
Me too.
So that Motion's been made, is there, and seconded? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, done. When we were discussing liaisons last week, one of the things that came up was the Housing Standards Board, and I kind of tabled that because we had not really functioned. We had a regular Housing Standards Board that met monthly, and it really should be on an as-needed basis. And we are required to have a Housing Standards Board. I have to be on it because I'm health officer, and the fire chief has to be on it. We did get a letter of interest from Kendall Hughes, who wants to be on it. He has been on it in the past. And I think that we should, in fact, have this Housing Standards Board to meet on an as-needed basis. Any comments?
I think Mr. Hughes, with his experience in the fire field, could be a great asset to continue to retain for this board. Obviously, he looks at things in other manners than you or I would, from a fire protection standpoint.
Well, he's also a rental agent, so
Yep.
he has that perspective as well.
But we need a liaison, that's the question.
Well, we
it's
don't.
up to you if you do.
We really don't. It's not an official liaison,
okay.
and because I have to be on it, I
Right,
guess by
you're
default I'm
there.
the liaison, and we only meet on an as-needed basis.
Okay. True.
Because the majority of things that are done that affect housing standards are done with inspections. If they're life safety, Steve Heath does it, and if they're involve health, I do it, and frequently we do them together. Because it usually involves both things.
Right.
But we do discuss, the general issues at the Housing Standards Board. So I think it would be wise to recreate it, and if Kendall Hughes wants to be on it, I would take a nomination. Sure. A motion to approve Kendall Hughes as a representative to the Housing Standards Board.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, if you could let Mr. Hughes know. We had 5 members on that board in the past, so if anybody else is interested in serving on the Housing Standards Board, please let the board know. Okay, the Ashland Transportation Advisory Committee.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can I speak on that since I'm
Please.
the liaison?
Please.
Thank you. So, it was interesting because over the last 2 weeks there were a lot of items that kind of fall under that purview, and I did a lot of research on that. I'll come to that on a separate select board item. But regarding the committee itself, I did ask both the department head at DPW and also the town administrator about calling a meeting, and there seemed to be some lack of clarity around, is this a committee that we're continuing? If so, on what frequency are we meeting? What will its purpose, what will its continued purpose be? So I'd like to bring that up before the board for us to decide that.
We didn't dissolve the committee. It met several times last year and has not met since, and probably needs to meet on an as-needed basis. And as we've discussed tonight and 2 weeks ago, there are a lot of things that should be discussed. In the past, the committee was made up of Tim Paquette, obviously, Walter Durek was a member of it, Dave Toth, and Lee, you were the liaison from the select board, I believe.
I think so.
And I'm not sure, there was somebody else on it, but I don't remember who. So I think it's up to us to recreate it, if you will, and to then try to assemble a meeting so that they can reorganize. So
And Madam Chair,
I think it's a blank slate at this point. Yes.
for clarity's sake, who would call the meeting of ATAC? Would it be myself or would it be the DPW?
Well, at this point, I would suggest that you do it as the select board liaison, and see if you can get consensus on when's a good time to meet.
Okay.
And then when you have a meeting, you should reorganize and appoint a chair, which shouldn't be you. It should be a member of the public.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to make the motion that we, continue the Ashland Transportation Advisory Committee on an as-needed basis, and that committee will be called to meeting upon the request of either the chair of that committee or the liaison, the Board of Selectmen liaison to that committee.
Well, I think it should be a select board vote
Okay.
Not just the liaison,
Right,
but I
right,
think
of course.
representing an agreement by the select board.
Yes. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I agree with you as far as it should be a select person that would make the call. I think that it does guarantee transparency, and it'll also ensure that everything's in timely order. I know in the Joint Loss Committee we meet quarterly. I'm new to that, but perhaps that might be something to think of with all these things that come up. It seems to be when the warmer weather comes about, they come up.
And I think we ought to also open it up for other members of the public if they want to be a part of this, to discuss roads and sidewalks and all the issues that are involved in transportation, especially with the TAP coming up. You volunteering?
Actually, Carol Fucarelli.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Carol Fucarelli was on
Some
it.
guy by the name of Eli Badger.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how I could have forgotten you, Eli. So you have those original people. You can contact them and see if they're still interested. But, you know, this is an important topic, and I think it's good if we get this going again. So, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, what?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was too late.
What?
There was some discussion what the actual charge of the committee was. I don't know if that's ever been clarified, if we've been given any sense of direction of what the committee is supposed to do.
They're just advisory to the select board.
Yeah, okay.
They are just to discuss ideas, thoughts, you know, and advise the select board. It's not at all a committee that has any authority.
Okay.
That's what it was in the past. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And would the board like me to call a meeting prior to our next Board of Selectmen meeting, or?
If possible, I would think, but if you can't, I mean, you got to do it at people's availability.
Right, okay.
You know, if possible, that would be good to get some feedback.
Okay, so I'd like to motion that the board approve the liaison, myself, to call a meeting of ATAC as soon as reasonable.
Second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think that is a wise choice with the impending paving season coming in,
Okay.
that we should have some input.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have gotten a letter from Cheryl Cox. Cheryl had been a member of the planning board, and when she was on the planning board, she was a liaison to the Economic Development Committee. So she's written this note: although I'm no longer on the Ashland Planning Board and don't represent that board on the Ashland Economic Development Committee, I would like to stay on the AEDC as a citizen member. I request being appointed to the AEDC in that capacity. Can I have a motion to...
A motion that Cheryl Cox be appointed to the Ashland Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Oh, and I'll amend that to make it a 3-year, is the regular
3
term?
years, yeah.
So I'll amend that to be a 3-year
Okay.
appointment.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. You will let Cheryl know, Charlie?
Yep.
Okay. The final item is to confirm a time and date for the Board of Selectmen Goals and Objectives meetings with Primex and department heads. Charlie, what have you...
What days work best for the board?
Does it have to be during the day?
It doesn't have to be, but they prefer that.
Yeah.
I know some work, some have
Yeah, I know
busy
that's
schedules.
difficult for you, Casey.
If you could always just write down what you thought and send it to me, and I can provide, you know, feedback to Primex. You know, it'd also probably be good for the department heads that work during the day,
Yeah.
have long days and stuff.
I agree.
I think they should be there to help with this.
So I think I told you I'm available Monday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday, pretty much all day. Wednesday, mostly all day, but sometimes Thursday morning. But Monday through Wednesday would be best for me. And I think, Harold, you had responded?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Your availability?
My availability is between 8 and 2, 8 a.m., 2 p.m.,
Any day?
any day.
Lee?
Why don't we, you know, maybe do it at 9 on a Tuesday?
I
That
like a
would
Tuesday.
work.
9 a.m. on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can make that work.
Okay, Casey,
Okay.
I realize that you can't be there, but
No.
we'll make sure that we bring you in on the
Or,
discussion,
no, like I
okay?
said, just send me
Yeah.
something that you think you would like to see accomplished this year by the board. Any goals that you might have, write it and send it to me, and we'll talk about it perhaps next Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay.
I have
Sounds good.
something to add to the select board
Okay.
items that we did not touch base on.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else is aware, but we have less than 1 month until our flag is going up in the park.
Ah.
We've yet to retain a lighting option for that.
That's very
I don't
true.
know if we have any cost points that we pointed out. It's we've decided to go with a better solar unit. If we're going to hardwire it, if we're going to retrofit one of the tennis court lights. But I think that we owe it to the veterans of our town to ensure that that light is in place within the next month.
I would agree with that. Could we ask Tim to do some research?
Sure.
Tim? Could we ask you to do some research on lighting options for the flag?
I surely can.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
What would you prefer, solar?
For solar,
Yeah.
definitely we'd prefer, but it needs to light up the flag. I mean, which it didn't last year, so.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the lights that go right at the top of the flagpole.
Yeah.
The halos.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just unscrew the ball and
Yeah.
you put that light on
Yeah.
there. We just have to see if there's one powerful enough
Okay.
for that size flag.
Okay, I'd appreciate that,
Yeah.
Tim, if you'd let us know.
We can do that.
All right, thank you, Harold. Anything else?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a couple more select board
Okay.
items, please. So on a lighter note, I went to JD Design and I asked for a draft or a mock-up of certificate of appreciation for all the people that have served the town of Ashland in an appointed or an elected position in the last 5 years. This is a replica, a mock-up here, and the cost would be for the 200 certificates of similar look or whatever we want to design it, and it would also include, by the way, a city emblem on it. The cost for 200 certificates would be $187.
Okay.
If we did not have Jay do any designing. If we had her do designing, it would be $367. So in the spirit of appreciating and encouraging participation by the people in their democratic self-governance, I motion that a maximum of $187 be allocated for the one-time purpose of producing and issuing signed, high-quality, and aesthetically pleasing certificates of appreciation to each and every natural person who has held an appointed or elected position with good standing in the town of Ashland from January 1st, 2012 to January 1st, 2017.
Is there a second?
Who's the company?
JD Design.
JD Design.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I would just like to suggest, I personally think that's a great idea. I was also going to bring up that we did vote as a board prior to your joining and Casey's joining, that we would have a town volunteer day in honor of Norm DeWolf. And we set July 20th as that volunteer day.
That's right.
And I would like to get a committee together who can start planning that event. Kathleen picked July 20th because that was their anniversary, as I said. And we did vote to do that in Norm's honor, and it might be a nice time to present these certificates. So just a thought.
That's a good idea. That's a
great idea.
For the motion, all those in favor of the expenditure for the certificates?
Wait. Do you have any ideas where we're gonna find this in the budget? I mean, this is out of the blue for me. I have no idea where this kind of came from.
We have an executive line, right?
Charlie, what do we
I'd
have?
have to see how much is in there. I mean, not against it or anything like that. I think it's great. It's just, this.
Yeah, good
this
question.
was,
Yeah.
completely
Yeah,
out
well,
of the blue.
let's
and
make
I
sure
didn't
we
have
can
any,
find it in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so can we make it contingent upon
Contingent
finding-
upon finding it in the budget, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we just have to make sure you sort of hit the right line.
I'll amend my motion to add
Okay.
contingent upon finding the
Okay.
necessary funds in the budget to allocate.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, I'd like to request that we find a committee to plan this volunteer day, so anybody in the public who wants to be a part of this, we would welcome anybody, but that's for further discussion.
I'd like to add for the minutes that I am abstaining from this vote due to relation
Yes.
under our current
Thank you, Harold.
Code of Ethics for Selectmen, Article 9, relation.
Thank you, Harold.
Benefit, therefore, personal.
So the vote is,
what is that?
he's abstaining from the vote because of conflict of interest, personal relationship with the
His
JD
wife.
Design.
Oh.
His wife.
Yes.
We didn't ask for any nays and we didn't ask for any abstentions.
Yes.
It's not a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
It's, 4 to 1.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No.
Really.
So, my understanding is that the legislature has put out there that we can ratify the results of our recent town votes, and the election results have been ratified by the legislature, but the other items have not been. That is my understanding. And
All
so
the bond items, is that what you're speaking of?
well, all the items
Articles.
minus officers. And so for the ease of just functioning here, although I don't agree with the fact that we have to actually ratify, I would like to motion that we ratify the most recent 2017, March 2017 election results and, all the entire ballot, basically.
Okay. Is there a second?
No,
What?
wait, no.
What?
No, you can't just do that. We have to
You need to
follow
have a
the
hearing.
procedures. We have to have
Okay.
a public hearing. I have to advertise
All
in the
right.
paper.
Needs to be 72 hours.
Yeah, we have to give proper notification
Okay.
to the public.
All right.
It has to be, posted in town where we post notification of town meeting.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. So I'll amend it to be that we initiate this process to, bring about the eventual vote of a possible ratification and, in line with the outline.
Any concern with that, Charlie, from what you know?
No, I mean,
Okay.
that's
Just
the
the public
bill-
hearing.
that's the law that was
Okay,
passed.
all right.
What will happen if we don't do anything?
Technically nothing. They said there's nothing there, but
No.
state attorney council
Yeah.
recommended to be
Okay,
safe
we
than
should do
sorry.
it.
I,
It's not
I would
that-
like
Okay.
to
It's not that much of a.
second that amended motion to have the public hearing for the rescheduled March 14, 2017 elections that were held on March 16, 2017 in the town of Ashland, state of New Hampshire.
Okay.
Wow.
No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anything else?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that, so I was given as liaison to Water and Sewer, I was given the quarterly report. I made photocopies of that and put that in everybody's folder. I
Yep.
don't know if the Water and Sewer Commission have handed in, an official copy, but I did just want to say that has
Yep,
been given to everybody.
so noted.
Okay, thank you.
We also received one from the electric department, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Also, I looked into the Smith Hill and Thompson Street issue a little bit deeper. I received an email mentioning that Mr. Hayes may be an engineer who would like to come and speak with the public about the plans. And so he said that the cost per hour to review the plans would be $100 per hour, and it would take 3 to 4 hours to review the plans, and then it would be $125 per hour for a public meeting. So if it were a 2-hour meeting and it took 4 hours, it'd be $650. So as I looked into it, it sounds like the money set aside for that engineering project was not brought to the people of the town for a vote on that. So I believe that the least we can do is offer them a conversation with an engineer here at $650 so that they can be well informed about what the plans are, and hopefully go out and petition their neighbors or get them to vote for it the next time that we have a vote on those roads.
I thought we had agreed that this should be discussed by the ATAC committee. I would like you to take that, I appreciate the
Okay.
research, to the ATAC committee and come up with a recommendation from all of those before we vote on yet another thing that we need some time to think about.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay. The other thing is we have received an email from an individual that has concerns about their interactions with the electric commission.
Yes, don't say any more about that because we could be violating somebody's, reputation. It is my assessment that that is a matter for the electric commissioners, and that complaint
Correct.
should be forwarded directly to the electric commissioners, and we should not get involved. And we should let this individual know that that's the proper course of action.
I think that there needs to be a letter sent from either us or the commissioners of the electric department that just lets them know that they're not under the guidance, governance, or supervision of us.
Absolutely. We
Because
should not
this
be
needs to
involved
be
in this at
quelched.
all, even though it was addressed to us. I think it needs to be referred to the commissioners. So, but we should let him know formally that that's the proper procedure, and whatever it takes to get that over is fine.
Okay.
I don't mean to backtrack, but Teja Singh, I remember, I'm not sure the exact date, but when you were speaking of Smith Hill Road, I think you should look into the minutes. I believe it was fall of 2014 when there's actually a plan, a quote Band-Aid put in place for the drainage, an agreement that had been spoken of for Smith Hill Road for the drainage alone. I want to say it was in October of 2014. You might want to review those minutes.
Okay.
If you're speaking
October
to
of
people
2014.
about rallying behind a position.
Yes, Tim.
Okay.
We've already had a third party look at and we paid them a considerable amount of money. We had Novus Engineering look at
Yes,
the
we
Oil
did.
Tanner
Yes.
engineering
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
So I mean, obviously, it's up to the board's vote to do
Well, that's
this.
why I want a recommendation from the ATAC, and you're going to be part of the ATAC, so please come to us with that recommendation. I don't really want to get into it right now,
Okay,
Tim, but thank you.
we do have a third
I
party
appreciate that, and I'm aware of that, yes. Yes.
So on Article 6, moving on to a different issue of the ballot that we just voted on. So I had a question because it reads here. I'll just read the last couple sentences. It says, should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $2,600,288, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action from the town of Ashland or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, numeral 10 and numeral 16, Roman numeral 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. So I'm wondering, is that an option to have a special meeting to discuss an operating budget?
Yes.
Instead of just running on the, a default budget?
It's always an option. And if we feel that our budget is not sufficient to take care of the needs of the town, that's certainly an option that's open to us.
It seems so. What I hear you saying is that it's something that is used as a last resort, or if issues come up.
It is.
Okay, so it's not an either-or thing. It's not, because I found a lack of clarity around that. In fact, I saw that we could actually hold that meeting without petitioning the court. They mentioned that, and it seemed to be, the language around that seemed to indicate that there was two options. There was the option of running on a default budget, or there was the option of having the town meeting to come up with an operating budget. So you're saying that those aren't two equal choices. One is like a go-to if the other one is problematic.
Exactly.
Okay.
And right now we're operating on a default budget, which we've done most of the years I've been in the town. But again, if it becomes a concern, then we can have a special meeting to revisit that budget.
I think that was put in there for the fact that if there was any one particular item that we felt so heartedly behind, that we had put so much time and energy into, that we were able to call to vote, to call a meeting. We are allowed but one special meeting a year, so we need to take that to mind if we have anything else on the horizon that we need to deal with.
Okay. And the one other issue I'll also just bring to ATAC, because an individual from the public that was here last week came and talked to me about a concern that was specifically related to them. But I think that that's a great recommendation, and understandably that's what we talked about. So I won't mention that item, but I'll just let you know that I'm also going to bring this additional item to ATAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Teja Singh?
I don't believe so. I think that's it for now.
Yes.
I just have a report on my latest meetings,
Okay.
briefly, and
Thank
on
you.
a lighter note.
All right.
At last week's planning board meeting, we talked about revising chapter 1 of the master plan. The first 6 pages will be discussed / revised at our next meeting, which is this Wednesday night. We talked about site plan review application by owner Richard Kirby for lessees who wish to open a New York bagel and deli store in the former Adams Body Shop beside the post office. It was learned an abutter did not receive a letter. The procedure concerning such was discussed. At our Pemmy River Advisory Committee meeting, was that last week? Yeah. Last week, longtime chairman Max Stamp announced his retirement, and Bill Bolton, who is right here, was elected the new chair. Most of the discussion was about joining the north and south boardwalks around Profile Lake, which is underneath the Old Man in the Mountain, if everyone knows that. The negative would be that it would disrupt fishermen in that area. So 2 of 7 opposed joining the path, which I was one of them because I didn't want to disrupt the fishermen, and 5 voted to remain neutral on the subject. Right?
All right.
Okay.
Lee?
The Drapers and Max Stamp will testify at the next Northern Pass testimony schedule when the Pymmy River Commission will be asked to speak. And this past Saturday, April 29th, several Planning and Zoning Board members attended the annual Spring Planning and Zoning Conference held in Concord. Attending were Sue McLeod, Mardine Badger, myself, Erica Hebert from the Planning Board, and Eli Badger and Tim Sweetser from the Zoning Board.
Great.
We attended several workshops including right to know law issues, celebrating your community's historical resources, legal update, and plan reading and analysis. That's it.
Thank you for the update, Lee. I appreciate it. Anything else? We don't need a non-public tonight, I trust. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Yes.